Testing for YouTube. Testing one, two, three.
All right, everyone. We will call to order our regular meeting of council. And before we start, I'd like to acknowledge and recognize that we work, live, and play in the city of Port Alberni, which is situated on the unceded territories of the Sujat and Hupachesit First Nations. We do have an agenda in front of us. Council, are there any late items to add? Seeing none, any late items from our corporate officer?
No late items, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Would somebody like to move approval of our agenda? Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Patola. Seeing no comments on the agenda, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And on to adoption of minutes. We have minutes from the special meeting and regular meeting of council on October 27th, 2025. Move to adopt by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Dame. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And on to delegations. We have a very exciting delegation today. Mike, I will turn it over to you just to give an introduction.
Sure, thank you. And through the chair, today's an exciting day. We filled two positions within the city administration that we've been waiting for quite a long time. I went through an extensive process, and we're here today to introduce Louis. He's our new Director of Parks, Rec, and Culture, and Zoe, our Recreation Manager. So if you guys want to come up and just say hi to council and the public, that'd be wonderful. Thanks.
Well, hello, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure to be here today and an honor to be selected to join this amazing team in Port Alberni. My name is Louis Dauphin. I'm the new Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture, and I really look forward to getting further integrated into the community and serving the community alongside all these wonderful people who work with the city. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Louis. We are so happy to have you on board. I know we've been in the search for a new Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture for quite some time. And I know that our CAO and our staff are really excited to have you on board. And I'll just say that Council's excited to have you in the community as well. And just looking forward to seeing, what your thoughts are on our Parks, Recreation, and Culture Department and seeing all of the new ideas that you bring. So welcome to the community.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And Zoe.
A little bit short, so. Hi, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for having me today. For those that don't know, my name is Zoe Batty, and I am the new Recreation Services Manager for our Parks, Recreation, and Culture Department. Previously was the recreation programmer here with the team, so very excited to continue working for the city of Port Alberni at just a different level. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Zoe, and really thrilled to have you in this role now as well. And I will just say that it's always nice on behalf of the organization when we find a really strong candidate for a position internally. So congratulations and thanks for coming today. Thanks. All right. Moving on from delegations, always nice to just have delegations that are introducing exciting new positions. We'll go to unfinished business, and item number 1 is master planning public engagement.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm here to speak to Council today to provide an overview of the master planning public engagement efforts that are scheduled for November and December, primarily relating to the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan and the Transportation Master Plan. The development of our Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan and Transportation Master Plan are about 70% complete and 60% complete, respectively. And our consultant teams led by Lanark and Bunt have developed draft frameworks for these master plans through consultation with the public, interest groups, staff, and as well as by professional analysis of these departments' assets, programs, and operations. So we're now beginning public engagement for phase 2 of these 2 projects on the proposed framework, sharing what we've developed so far and seeking feedback from the community. So this will help us confirm which elements of the plans that we are developing are supported, which are not, what's missing the mark, and what's just outright missing. This public engagement will help us to prioritize the objectives that are in our draft framework so that the most important elements will be implemented first and when we prepare the actual master plan report itself. Reports summarizing the engagement results will be prepared for both projects and presented to council and the public early in 2026. The teams will use the community feedback to adjust the framework and prepare detailed draft master plan reports to present to the community for a final round of public discussion. So the details of engagement is coming up in the next couple of months. The city's holding 2 events on November 26th at the Echo 67 Center. The first element is presentations on these 2 master plans, Parks, Rec, and Culture and Transportation, beginning at 4:30, followed by a Q&A session. And then beginning at 6 p.m., it will be the 3rd annual Connect with Your City open house with staff from all city departments. And we will have our consultant teams for those 2 aforementioned master plan projects present at the open house, as well as another booth with our consulting team for the water, wastewater, and stormwater master plans. So people will be able to talk to the teams about any of those plans, not just the ones we're presenting on the 26th. It should be noted some elements of the draft directions for these 2 master plans are still in development. So there's some pieces that won't be ready to share at the time of the November 26th event. Some specific things I'll note. For transportation, the road rehabilitation capital program is still in development, being analyzed by our consultant. You may recall I presented earlier this year on the results of a citywide pavement condition assessment. So the consultants got that data in September, and they're still working through processing that and coming up with goals and priorities and road reconstruction capital plans. So that piece won't be ready to be reported on yet. And also the truck route analysis is still in progress. And for Parks, Recreation, and Culture, we've got a fairly full, comprehensive framework presented, but we're not ready to present yet on recommendations related to finance, such as revenue generation, and some of the culture planning recommendations still need a bit more fleshing out, and the city's planning to meet with relevant interest groups in January to help with that. Supporting reports that will provide more details on the draft frameworks are planned to be released to council and public in a subsequent report after the engagement event. And there'll be a public survey on the Parks, Rec, and Culture draft framework starting as of the day of the open house, November 26th, open through the end of the year. And we have a public survey in development for Transportation Master Plan as well that we plan to release in January once the additional missing elements of the plan have been released to the public for comment. Our manager of communications is promoting the November 26th event and surveys on a broad spectrum from social media, print media, advertising with the Alberni Bulldogs, and there'll be some peak radio spots as well. So I'd like to take a few minutes just to highlight a few of the elements, the draft master plan directions that are going to be included in the materials presented to the public over the next couple months. So with the Parks, Recreation, and Culture master plan, some key actions include installation of new play structures at certain key parks, including a new playground suited for inclusive and accessible play. Inclusion of a waterfront destination park, cultural amenities and spaces as part of the SOMAS lands redevelopment plan. Increases to sports court space for sports where we have a growing capacity shortage and increasing demand. We have recommendations related to improving our playing field management and user experience related to focus on quality over quantity of fields. So investing our resources more towards a higher quality and better maintained primary fields and less on the lower quality and less underused fields. Changes in booking booking management for fields and courts, and also policy recommendations around actively pursuing opportunities with school boards and First Nations to pursue joint facilities for that could be used by, not just the city. Long-term plan to fill out the multi-use pathway network such that eventually people will be able to connect all the way from Falls Road, Orange Bridge area, all the way to John Douglas Park at Peace. There are recommendations related to reducing operational costs for non-core parks and green spaces, either by divesting or repurposing to revenue-generating uses. There's recommendations related to growing Port Alberni's urban tree canopy. And I'll also mention we're planning to include some questions in the public survey, take advantage of the survey we're doing to get some public opinion polling on long-term alternatives for McLean Mill and 9th Avenue Arena. For the transportation master plan, a few of the policy recommendations that are included in the draft framework is a complete streets policy, which is really a policy about designing our roads and transportation corridors, not just for motor vehicles, but designing them in a way that benefits all users, including pedestrians and cyclists. Safe systems policy, which is sometimes referred to as a Vision Zero policy. So these are policies and standards around traffic safety and recognizing that traffic deaths are preventable, and that we can do things in our street designs and our policies and bylaws that can reduce fatal and severe crashes without spending a ton of money. Proposed capital projects in the Transportation Master Plan include safety upgrades at high-risk intersections, new sidewalks or multi-use pathways in the immediate vicinity of elementary schools, commercial districts, and key collector road segments where they're currently absent, and newer or improved sidewalk accessibility letdowns in core areas and key transportation routes. Lastly, I'll mention that our transportation consultant has completed traffic modeling for the year 2042 condition with proposed growth, and found that there is not going to be any technical need for increased motor vehicle capacity within our city streets between now and 2042. So in other words, we don't foresee a need for adding lanes of traffic or additional bypass roads or anything like that to still meet a satisfactory traffic flow within the city. Obviously, there's more to these plans than what I've been able to cover in this presentation, but I'll leave it at that and see if there's questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the overview. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of detail there, so appreciate you coming back to council. Questions, comments? Okay, would somebody like to move? I think it's just receipt. Yeah, move receipt. Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no additional comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thanks again for the report. And we'll move on to staff reports, quarterly reports, and we have just one today from the RCMP. Welcome, Inspector Bruce.
Hello, and thank you for having me. How do I advance through the slides again? That's you? Okay, thank you. There we go, sorry. We've received 2 Indigenous Police Section recruiting banners very recently, and one has been placed in the front foyer of our detachment, as you'll see up there in the top right-hand corner. It is really just meant to be conspicuous to our visitors to create conversations around our recruiting process and to help anyone who's interested in becoming a police officer with any further actions or inquiries they might want to undertake. Some of these other photos you see here, or the one on the bottom there, we've had some recent training delivered locally at our detachment. Firstly by Kristen Conboy, who heads the Informal Conflict Management Program in the Lower Mainland, and then secondly by 2 police instructors who attended from the Counter Human Trafficking Unit to deliver training to a group of 25 individuals from various Port Alberni agencies. However, for this reporting period, I point to the photo with myself standing next to Sergeant Chet Carroll, who was our GIS plainclothes commander. He has achieved his team commander accreditation and was formally recognized for this accomplishment in front of everyone at the detachment and received his accreditation certificate that was sent to me for presentation. This is an incredible feat, the enormity of it being the result of an arduous application process that required Sergeant Carroll to showcase a degree of acumen and experience across various major case investigative streams. There are currently approximately 165 team commanders in BC, 19 on Vancouver Island. Chet becomes the 20th and the only one in Port Alberni. For Sergeant Carroll, this means he will work much as he already always has, but with greater autonomy in his overall responsibility for the speed, flow, and direction of major case investigations. This is important as these high-profile cases are frequently the focus of intense external scrutiny, and we are so very proud to have his expertise at our detachment. So it's important for me to share with you too that you have the awareness for this incredible talent serving Port Alberni.
Thank you. I will just interrupt for a moment and say, please pass on our congratulations. I was actually just in a meeting the other day, and it came up multiple times that we're so lucky to have Chet here. And so on behalf of council, please congratulate him for us. I think we certainly feel that as well. And I think the comment was, we hope he never decides to up and leave Port Alberni. So yeah, so thank you. And I'm really, really thrilled to hear this.
Very good, I will, thank you. If we could move on to operations generally. In the second quarter, the last quarter, our total file count for that period was 335.43. And I had calculated that if we were on track to match last year's increase to Q3, this latest reporting, by just over 12% increase, the Q3's count would be around 3936. Instead, the actual file count for Q3 this year is 4061, which reflects 518 investigations above last quarter, which is a 14.6% increase. If we realize the 15% decrease in Q4 as we did in 2024, the file count would still exceed last year's pace, being 3,451 cases versus the anticipated 3,346 that I had forecast from earlier this year, with a total pace of calls for service expected to be just over 14,000 at 14,020 calls, which is nearly 750 more calls for service this year than last. If I may move on to curfew checks, please. So we've conducted 1,043 curfew checks to the end of Q3, almost more than double the number of checks that have been conducted this same time last year by the end of Q3, which was 568 checks. This is due to the large emphasis that we place on this proactive effort. Of course, it's always when feasible, time permitting, but we want to uphold offenders' compliance with conditions as a means of mitigating in as much as possible recurring offense behaviors. Port Alberni currently has 28 individuals on curfew conditions. Another 12 offenders are on 24-hour house arrest, making the total number of persons being checked in Port Alberni at 40. Traffic enforcement, please. Through the third quarter, 226 contacts were made relative to traffic-related enforcement and/or response by your Port Alberni RCMP officers that are posted here. This does not include impaired driving enforcement by criminal code or by immediate roadside prohibition that are captured in next slides in the areas of operation. Nor do these numbers reflect the augmented traffic enforcement efforts Port Alberni enjoys from BC Highway Patrol, who added another 162 contacts, finding a variety of offenses that include driving without a license, driving contrary to restrictions, disobeying traffic control devices, disqualified and/or prohibited driving. However, speeding overall appears to be the predominant traffic-related offense occurring here. Moving on to the next slide, we have operations by area. So this is specific to Port Alberni. There are nearly 200 more calls for this reporting period than was seen for this same time last year. There's quite an array of offense behaviors, as you'll see in the matrix, evidenced across all crime types, with assault offenses, domestic violence, and theft under 5,000 offenses appearing to predominate. Next slide, please. For the ACRD, while there are 60 more calls for this time period in 2025 than there were in 2024 for Q3, not all crime types reflect activity. The predominant calls here also include assault, domestic violence, and theft-related offenses. For our First Nations communities, there are 12 more files this quarter than for the same time period last year, with an even further decrease in those crime types reflecting activity. Markers for activity do continue to be the same as those seen in other areas, being assault offenses, domestic violence, and theft-related offenses. Mental health related. So the top graph reflects annual totals of mental health related calls. Here I want to please note that these values are not specific to mental health calls in particular. What it means is that when we receive a call, it may not always be expressly for this purpose and then may have a relation to mental health afterwards or as part of the interaction. So the numbers on the top graph show all of those calls where we attended and mental health was deemed to be a related factor to the presenting issues. Also note in the top graph that the values for 2025 are good to the end of the third quarter and will only become higher yet by the end of Q4 for an annual total across the board. The second graph breaks down third quarter reporting specifically over the last 5 years and shows the total number of mental health calls and the resulting number of apprehensions that were made, which is why you see 2 numbers in each box. This hasn't changed from my prior reporting, and I kept it here to underscore and keep top of mind the policing trends for Port Alberni. The third graph with a yellow background is the StatsCan crime severity data reflected here as showing a decrease not just for Port Alberni, but for other neighboring detachments as well. As stated in my prior reporting, an analysis would be conducted to better understand this, and since then I've had a crime analyst conduct same with a report to be reviewed and appropriately discussed shortly. However, important to note for this period is that there were 3 confirmed homicide cases that occurred during the summer months, and these are being investigated by Port Alberni RCMP. These investigations are complex in nature, requiring immediate attention and protracted policing efforts. Risks stemming from these incidents are being investigated and managed. Noteworthy is that our General Investigations Section team is not only seized with tasks associated to the conduct of these 3 homicides, but they are also actively advancing 3 other homicide investigations dating back through to 2021. Their major crime caseload is at 19, and their other open, active, non-major crime cases are at 29, bringing the total number of investigations that they are managing at 48. The amount of incredibly good work being done by this team, our GIS team, and the front line that supports them cannot be overstated. Forensic identification section. So as before, these are simply call types that our FIS team responds to divided by jurisdiction. Generally speaking, their call volumes are somewhat depressed from a typical summer stretch. Factor is that their unit strength was limited as one member was on light duties during this period. To the end of the third quarter for 2025, Port Alberni FIS involvement has been required in a total of 116 investigations across all of the jurisdictions they serve. Port Alberni accounts for 65 of their 116 cases, meaning that 56% of their workload is derived from incidents occurring in Port Alberni's municipal and provincial policing jurisdictions. Noteworthy is the recent success of another one of our Port Alberni members, Constable Brian Kenny, who is now a certified forensic specialist and who is now promoted to corporal. Again, this accomplishment is no easy feat, and would require the successful completion of a lengthy understudy program. So the FIS team that is currently in Port Alberni is now served by 3 specialists, and we have the ability to leverage this support, which is invaluable to our operations in the everyday. Crown submissions. So from 2023 to 2024, there was a reduction in our report to Crown Council submissions by 35.5%. From 2024 to 2025, this number has further reduced by 8.5%. Though there are a number of factors that can contribute to this, the number one is that first response is very often prioritized over investigational follow-up. And our small frontline teams are experiencing a decreased amount of time available to get fulsome investigational reports to Crown Council in a timely fashion or at all. Less time means more delays and very often more overtime to have officers work beyond their regular schedule to get the job done. And as you can see in the tables below, you can be sure they do, as is reflected there. Here in the tables below, I've provided the year-to-date figures reflecting the number of Crown submissions for Port Alberni as compared to those submitted to this time by our neighboring police jurisdictions. On average, Port Alberni is second only to Nanaimo in submitting cases to Crown for charge approval. While again, a number of factors may contribute to these numbers at any given time, noteworthy is that Nanaimo detachment shows an authorized strength of 169 RCMP members, while Port Alberni shows 42, and yet we're only 273 submissions behind them, or rather at 72% of their pace to this time. This should underscore just how hard your Port Alberni members are working. And that is the conclusion of my report and any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the report. Especially that last kind of number, I think that's really helpful to see in comparison to Nanaimo, the number of submissions. So really appreciate that context. Additional comments? Okay, no questions, no comments. Would somebody like to move receipt of the quarterly report?
Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Dame, seconded by Councillor Patola. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you very much for the report today. Okay, on to bylaws. We have one item today, and that's OCP and zoning bylaw amendment 3027 2nd Avenue.
So thank you, Mayor and Council.
Oh, sorry,
So-
apologies. I'm going to go to Councillor Dame first.
Thanks. I'm just going to step out. I'm going to recuse myself for that one because of the proximity of my business to the proposed development. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll just give Councillor Dame a moment to exit the room, and then we'll move to our Director of Development Services.
Okay. So thank you, Mayor and Council. So Council is being asked to consider an OCP and zoning bylaw amendments that would enable a potential new supportive housing development at the property at 3027 2nd Avenue. So the proposed amendments that Council is being asked to consider is a change to the official community plan that would change the designation of this property from general commercial to our multifamily residential designation in the OCP, add some text amendments to allow supportive housing and multi-residential land uses where specified by a site-specific zoning. We would also add this property or change this property from our commercial form and character development permit area to our multifamily residential form and character area in the official community plan. We would create a new comprehensive development zone. We're calling it the CD7 zone. And of course, then the zoning amendment would change the land use designation from our C7, which is our core business district, to the new comprehensive development zone. So the proposed BC housing project is a 6-story supportive housing project. The building would consist of 55 studio units. 8 of these units would be fully accessible and 47 would be adaptable. The building also includes a full commercial kitchen, a large dining room area, lounge, library, counseling rooms, staff room, bike storage, and laundry facilities. And some architectural drawings are attached to the balance, or to the staff report that shows a few different pictures of the site plans, units, and elevations. Supportive housing provides a home with access to on-site supports to help residents maintain housing stability. Also attached to the staff report is a document from BC Housing called Community Benefits of Supportive Housing, and it provides a fair bit of interest and detail on supportive housing projects. The city's most recently homelessness count was completed on April 30th of 2025, and there was 180 people noted as experiencing homelessness within the city of Port Alberni. As indicated, the proposed, in addition to the OCP amendments, a zoning bylaw amendment would create a new comprehensive development zone. This new CD zone is specific for this supportive housing development on 3027 2nd Avenue. Comprehensive development zones are often created on an infill piece of property where a very detailed and site-specific development proposal is being requested for council to consider. And that allows the zone to be very specifically crafted to mirror the proposal that is in front of council, so that they're assured that what is being shown to council is what is going to be actually built if council was to approve it. So the site development regulations are somewhat similar to the adjacent C7 zones in that they do have a lower maximum lot coverage, a lower floor area ratio. The setbacks are similar but somewhat different. There is an increased height of 17.5 meters compared to 16 meters in the adjacent C7 zone, and that is a case in point where it's specifically crafted to the proposed building development that's being looked at. The parking standard in our C7 zone, which is our core business district for residential, is half a parking space per dwelling unit. The proposed parking requirement for this supportive housing project is a quarter, so 0.25 parking spaces per dwelling. The tenants of this facility are very unlikely to own vehicles, and the 14 proposed parking spaces is more than adequate for staff and any visitors that may be living at the site. The site on 2nd Avenue is very walkable to adjacent commercial areas, close to public transit and cycling networks. The proposed usable open space is somewhat less than what you would see in our zoning bylaw for a private commercial multifamily development. The project did focus on trying to maximize the number of supportive housing units. The open space that is provided for this project is raised above street level and enclosed on all sides, which allows for greater privacy for the residents and also allows staff to supervise. As there's an OCP amendment required for this project as well, so a pre-engagement process is required under Section 475 of the Local Government Act, and BC Housing provided additional opportunities for residents and neighbors to receive information on this project through a variety of different methods, including a public information open house. That open house was held on April 1st of 2025 at the Best Western Barclay. BC Housing staff, the architect, and city staff attended that meeting and collected written and verbal feedback. A little bit of that feedback was there was general support for additional affordable housing. There was concern about the scale and density of this proposed project, concern about the location, and concern about general crime and drug use. The detailed engagement summary report is also attached to staff's report for council's information. The property at 3027th Avenue is owned by the City of Port Alberni, is currently vacant. BC Housing is proposing the development of a 6-story, 55-unit supportive housing project. The development would house vulnerable people who are experiencing homelessness. The project would be funded and managed by BC Housing and their operators. And I did want to reiterate again The city of Port Alberni's last homeless count was 180 residents. And of course, our interim housing needs report has also identified the deep need for deep subsidized supportive rental units and other rental units for people experiencing homelessness. Staff are recommending that council consider giving the official community plan and zoning bylaw amendments first and second reading, and that this application be forwarded to a public hearing, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that report. I will go to questions from council. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This question through you to Director Smith. With regards to the use of the comprehensive development zone for this supportive housing, excluding other types of congregate care, I'm wondering if it wouldn't be a better approach within the OCP to define a new zone, multifamily residential supportive housing zone, that could then be applied in the rezoning of multiple parcels in the exact same manner across the city, instead of having single parcels that are zoned in a way particular to that zone and end up with parcels of land all across the city that are all zoned differently. Is that clear?
I think so. Through the chair to Councillor Pitolo, I think for this particular project, the OCP amendments were meant to add the ability to provide policy support, so council can consider a comprehensive development zone within the multifamily designation. Certainly, a much more thorough look at our multifamily zoning, or OCP designations and zoning after the new OCP. As council is aware, we can continue to work on a new official community plan that will provide more direction for the community and council to consider about not only supportive, but other types of affordable housing or transitional housing, as well as different types of multifamily housing. So we were trying to put language in for that really did speak to this very specific application. But that being said, I think it will be very appropriate in the future in the OCP and subsequent zoning bylaws to take a much stronger look at our multifamily designations and zoning to see where might other similar types or different types of levels of affordable housing, supportive housing, and multifamily should go, and the policy direction. So to your point, I think this is very specifically crafted around this very detailed proposal. But yes, the community does need to consider these and a wider look in both the larger OCP look and then after that, the zoning bylaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Other question that I had is with regards to Table 2, the proposed OCP text amendments. One is to add supportive housing and a area that supportive housing is permitted, and the other is to enable supported housing except congregate care, which should be located within the institutional designation. I'm just wondering how those two terms are defined or where they are defined, that being supportive housing and congregate care.
They are sometimes used in somewhat different terms, and the OCP designation is actually deleting the reference for except congregate care where it should be located in institutional zone so that it's consistent with the other policy to allow supportive housing and congregate care within the multifamily designation. So just want to be clear that that was actually, we saw that conflict, and therefore we're saying for this instance, we're proposing to have that deleted out. And then as I indicated before, I think it will be certainly valid for the community council to have a larger discussion about multifamily and different types of housing initiatives as we go forward.
So just for my own clarity then, essentially the discussion about how supportive housing is defined and what other definitions might be required depending upon the extent of that definition is probably more appropriate to have within the OCP conversation?
We actually have a definition of supportive housing in the zoning bylaw as it currently exists. And just for council's information, it means housing that has no limit on the length of stay, is per purpose designed building that provides ongoing supports and services to individuals who cannot live independently. So that was already in our zoning bylaw, so we didn't need to add a definition of that. But you'll see in the comprehensive development zone that that is a very site-specific use for the new zone that council is being asked to consider for this project.
Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, a question for yourself. This is actually a zoning change, so we're not really talking about this specific project, because if we aren't, then I have no questions. But if we're talking about this specific project, I have a question. Okay, just wanted to be clear, because I go off and talk about other things too. So anyways, my question is, in this particular, in the drawings that we, I guess the drawings, fencing and stuff like that for this particular area, will it be fenced? And second is this similar, because the public does not know, in Nanaimo, they have this particular, something very similar to this beside the police station and the fire department in Nanaimo, and it's supportive housing where they have people in their staff and that 24/7. Is this very similar to that particular project? But the fencing is really important because in like the low energy housing, and they have fencing around their property and that, and I'm just wondering, will this have fencing? And I'll wait for you to answer that and then I'll carry on.
Okay, so I'll try and answer a couple of those questions there. I'm not directly knowledgeable about the project in Nanaimo, so I can't speak to that. There are 24/7 staff and support services part of this proposal that BC Housing and their operator would provide. Portions of this property are fenced off the rear lane and on the side, but for instance, there's not a full fence along the front of the property or a gated access to their parking area. That's not currently in the drawings they have. This will be, if approved, will be a form and character development permit area that staff would work with the architect to refine the detailed design. But our bylaws and our guidelines don't currently mandate that this entire property be fully secured and fenced.
Fair enough, I understand that. It would have been great on the back end of it, would have been great to have fencing. But the other thing too is, where was I gonna go with this? When we talk about homeless, just to put it out there to the public, it doesn't mean it's people that have different issues in that. It could be the last paycheck when we talk about on the verge of being homeless, or they're couch surfing, and that, isn't that this? And in this case, it could be all those factors. They could have living with some kind of disability of some sort, and also one step to a paycheck. Is that what we call by low-cost housing? Just so people understand, it's not what they all think. And also, I would say to the public, if you get a chance and you go to Nanaimo, go near the police station and the fire department, take a look at the supportive housing there. And even if you want to knock on the door and talk to the people there, talk to them, because some of us councillors actually took a tour and it was quite interesting. And I thought, wow, yeah, I was pretty impressed. So I'll just leave it. Thank you.
Okay. Attached to the staff report was also the homelessness count, but also some more detailed information on how the homelessness count is done, and the Homelessness Service Association of BC, who does that. And they basically, when I read their thing, if you do not have a permanent place where you know you are going to be able to reside at night, you're considered homeless or at risk of homelessness. So for instance, if you are you're going from friend to friend, but you do not have a place where you can say, I know where I'm going to sleep tonight. So it is people who are living on our streets, but it's also people who actually have no place to call home.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay. Well, I will just say I'm really happy to see this coming forward. I think that it's been fantastic to see over the last few years much more housing being built in the community. And what I think is really important is that it's a variety of types of housing. So we've seen a significant amount of affordable housing built in the community. We've seen some supportive housing, but I think, less over the last few years. And then we've seen market-based housing as well. I think it's extremely important that we do build a variety of types of housing because we have a variety of people in our community with a variety of needs. And I feel strongly that this project specifically is going to serve a really important demographic of our community who are currently not being housed in a long-term way. So I'm thrilled to see this coming forward. I'm looking forward to the public hearing to hear more from the community and their thoughts on it. But I'm really happy to see us get to this step today. And I will go to Councillor Patola if you'd like to read the motions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the official community plan amendment 3027 2nd Avenue, bylaw number 5136, be now introduced and read a first time.
Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no additional comments, I'm waiting in case Councillor Mealy has. Okay, no problem. Seeing no additional comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that zoning amendment 3027 2nd Avenue, bylaw number 5137, be now introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Patola.
Madam Mayor, I move that official community plan amendment 3027 2nd Avenue, bylaw number 5136, be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Patola.
Madam Mayor, I move that zoning amendment 3027 2nd Avenue, bylaw number 5137, be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Patola.
And finally, Madam Mayor, I move that amending bylaws number 5136 and number 5137 be advanced to a public hearing on Monday, December 1st, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the Echo Center Cedar Room.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you very much for that, and we'll move on to correspondence for action. Item number 1, 2026 AGM and Convention of Association for Vancouver Island and Coastal Communities, resolution, notice, and submission process. And I will go to our corporate officer just to provide an overview.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is our first correspondence regarding the 2026 AVICC AGM and Convention. And so it's asking Council to consider 4 items that all come along with deadlines. And so the first is a call for resolutions with the deadline of February 12th. The second is a call for nominations to the executive, also a deadline of February 12th. Any session proposal process ideas, and that deadline is December 4th. And lastly, there is an opportunity for a student delegate program, and that would need to be applied for by Friday, January 16th. Thank you.
Thank you. Any direction from council at this time on types of motions we'd like to put forward? Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have actually 2 items I'd like to address, both of which would result in motions, neither of which I have constructed in my head yet. I'll read the last one first as the most important, and that we forward the invitation for a student delegate to School District 70.
Thank you, absolutely. I think that's a fantastic idea. And if you'd like to, I don't know if we need a motion on that necessarily, we can just accept it. So if you'd like to speak at all to other direction.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The other direction that I would like to move that we forward a resolution to the ABICC in the same form as the resolution we forwarded to UBCM, but was considered a late submission and wasn't considered with regards to the request for a reconciliation framework. So I know that wording has already been put together. I don't have it right in front of me, but as it wasn't considered, I still think it's very important and we should send it to ABICC.
Thank you, agree completely. Did you make that a motion? Okay, great. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no discussion on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Excellent. Any other councillors want to put forward an item to be considered as a resolution, even if we don't have an actual resolution today, but rather just discussion? Councillor Mealy.
Oh, in jest, I was going to say we could nominate Councillor Hager because she's not here, but no, I'm just kidding, of course.
Agree. All right, so council, this is just the first opportunity. Please think about potential resolutions that we could put forward to ABICC and then subsequently UBCM. I know that there are many things that we talk about throughout the year advocating for, and this is definitely the right time to do it. So we've got lots of time for that. And for now, we'll move on to proclamations. Item number 1 is an email dated October 31st, 2025, requesting that the month of November be proclaimed as Adoption and Permanency Awareness Month in Port Alberni. And I will make that motion. Seconded by Councillor Mealy. Any discussion? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And we'll go to correspondence for information. I'll go to our corporate officer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just 2 items today. One being the Union of BC Municipalities, and this is the provincial responses to Council's 2024 resolutions submitted. And secondly, a response to the city's letter sent to the Ministry of Transportation and Transit regarding pedestrian activated safety lights at Johnson Road and Adelaide Street following the construction project done there earlier this year.
Thank you. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to just talk about that last letter. It's not a surprise to anybody. I want to talk about this last letter. Just in the letter from Minister Farnsworth, it does say, the ministry would be glad to work with the city to help improve safety for pedestrians and vehicles traveling on or across Highway 4. And we had talked many times about pedestrian control crosswalks here, and it was not executed there, and we really need to have that. So I did have a chat, and maybe I could ask Mr. Fox just on what the next step is here now that we have the minister himself saying that they will work with us, but we need to work in the way that works for our community. So,
Mike.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for giving me the heads up that you were going to speak to this. So administration is following up with the ministry's administration, just saying when we got the notice that the design guidelines had to be changed for them to put a activated signal, we'll follow up with this letter, providing it to them, and just ask when that can happen. So again, it was our understanding that that would be pedestrian activated, and with this letter, it just gives us more reason to engage with the administration again.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. I appreciate that. And yeah, again, we have a new intersection where it doesn't have pedestrian control crosswalks. The province is saying, oh, they're not providers, but up at Princess Ian and Johnson, there is a pedestrian control crosswalk put in years ago by the province. Again, I'd like to see us, even if they want to buy our lights and all that, they're more than welcome to. I mean, I can't speak on behalf of staff, but I'm just saying anything's better than what it is, and I just don't want to see any more intersections down there worked on unless it's going to be the proper solution. That's all it is. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Actually, I was just going to comment on that too, and it's still a traffic problem, especially when the traffic's backed up. But they also talked about having another pedestrian and bump out crossing right across from where the fish and chip place is, right across that area. And that's still, I would like to know when that's going to happen and if it's going to happen, because I tell you, that's even worse. I mean, you got them all, everybody has to, I stop when I get there, and if there's cars and everything, because the cars don't give that little break in between the streets, not a lot of them. So you don't know who's crossing. Somebody sneaks out. Oh, there you go. So I would like to have that asked too, if they're going to go ahead with that project. If not, then they should.
Yeah, I think to follow up on that, and then I'll go to our CAO. We actually worked with the province on them to do a full assessment of Lower Johnston Road, and they put forward, you know, which of the options did the city support. We responded back. This is maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and there was sort of a tentative design agreed to through that process. It was for bump outs on every corner on Lower Johnston Road. I don't know about Gertrude, I don't remember that, but it was for some more significant improvements down there. I think that the work that was done was really just a first step, and I think it was a great improvement. I'm grateful that the province made it. However, it does need to be looked at as a first step. So I think two things here. Firstly, we need to work with them to make sure that we do get a light, a pedestrian activated light, where the improvements were made. And secondly, we need to continue the conversations. I know we have been, but we need to continually be advocating for further pedestrian improvements to Lower Johnston Road, as we know that there are several intersections down there where it is not safe for pedestrians to cross for a variety of reasons, and we need to improve that. Mike, and sorry, go ahead. Councillor Solda, and then to Mike.
Okay, sorry. There's another thing too, is that people are doing either the RCMP or somebody has to go down there and take a look. People are coming out of the old post office there, which is now the butcher place, and they're just going right across the street to the other side, and so you got that whole 2 lanes blocked, and while somebody lets them finally get in there so they can, like, the driving is really getting nuts, how people are driving. Like, I'm sitting there, oh my God, I can't believe that's happening. So the bump outs are working. I believe they are working. They're not making the traffic go, oh my God, the road's really narrow. I don't find that at all, because we do have wide streets in Port Alberni. I believe that it's important, safety first. And I understand that we need A and B done separately, but also on this letter, it says they're waiting for the master plan to be released from the city. Like, excuse me, it's your highway too, you know? You always tell us it's your highway, so at the last part of this paragraph. So I hope they're not waiting for that, because it's, you know, they need to worry about their little highways.
Thank you. I'll go to our CAO.
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, the ministry is coming to the November 17th Committee of the Whole meeting. So we will be able to follow up with these questions, and I'll give them a pre-warning about some of the comments and questions that we're talking about today. But again, we will continue to work with the ministry on all the different issues that remain on Beaver Creek and on Johnson Road.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Just a comment.
Oh,
I
sorry,
am not
Councillor
here.
Solda.
I'm just going to go right in. I'm not here on the 17th. I'm at a housing conference, but I will be on Zoom.
Thank you. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was somewhat opportune that we received the responses from the Union of BC Municipalities from the provincial government responses. Note these are for the 2024 submissions, not the 2025 submissions, and certainly we'll be right back on top of this again in 2026. But in relation to an item later on in the agenda with regards to release of in-camera items and the Vancouver Island Regional Library, I just wanted to note that the provincial response to Port Alberni's request in 2024 with regards to funding for libraries. I'm just going to read the beginning of the request, where our Port Alberni delegation recognized the vital and important role that libraries play in communities by providing access to resources, promoting literacy, supporting job seekers, small businesses, advancing reconciliation with Indigenous people, and promoting equity and inclusion. The library in Port Alberni, it does exactly that. I'm just repeating myself. It plays a vital role in so many parts of our city. And our request to have public libraries funded appropriately, to just condense our ask, was met with this response: a recognition by the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs that local governments are the primary funders of ongoing library operations. The province provides long-term supplemental funding only to support the enhancement and extended reach of public libraries, and only under the direction of local and regional library boards. So essentially that response says, Madam Mayor, that we should not be looking to the province to assist our library in Port Alberni, only if by chance the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board that we're a part of gets funds and then decides to disseminate them in our direction, will we get any benefit? And that ties into with item number 4 that will be released later on, but not to, spoiler alert, one of the, as a result of that response, one of the things that we are looking into is to work with the Vancouver Island Regional Library to change the funding process so that individual communities pay more appropriate share, and any of that long-term funding from the province gets disseminated appropriately to all parties.
Absolutely, thank you. Additional comments? Okay, seeing none, would somebody like to move receipt of the correspondence for information? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no additional comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And we'll go to report from in camera with the spoiler alert.
You stole my thunder, Councillor Patola. We have 4 items today. So the first being that council release for public consumption, execution of a memorandum of understanding between the city and the PA Picklers Association regarding collaboration on the design, construction, and maintenance of new pickleball courts at 3245 7th Avenue, Gyro Recreation Park, with no financial commitment and no guarantees for the group to exclusive land use or management of courts. Secondly, that council release for public consumption the execution of a lease agreement with H&J Welsh for units 1 and 2 at the Alberni Harbour Quay at a rate of $4,277.76 per month, less a provision in consideration of contributed capital assets up to a value of $256,666, resulting in a rate of $2,138.88 per month, plus taxes for a term of 10 years with an option to renew for 2 subsequent 5-year terms at fair market value. Thirdly, that council release for public consumption execution of a license of occupation agreement between Jim Pattison Developments and the city to permit the installation of a concrete pad and BC Transit bus shelter at 3756 10th Avenue for a 10-year term. And lastly, that council release for public consumption the formal request submitted to the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board to develop a revised funding model that 1, establishes a baseline of uniform services to be provided consistently across all branches. 2, introduces a customizable service menu enabling municipalities to select additional services tailored to the specific amenities and needs of their local branches. 3, aligns municipal levies with the actual level of services received, granting municipalities greater fiscal autonomy and operational control in managing library provisions. And 4, engages all member municipalities in the development of this funding model to ensure transparency, fairness, and responsiveness to local priorities and concern. And further, that council direct administration to forward this resolution to the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board and all member municipalities for their consideration, endorsement, and support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will move on to council reports. Are there any items from people's reports they'd like to highlight? Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just, can't remember what I said in my report, but I last week attended a unrelated conference, which was a Canadian Mental Health Association management conference, but a large part of the discussion was with regards to housing, and we received a presentation at that time on from the BC Not-for-Profit Housing Association, lots of words, that basically summarized all of the current programs being put forth by the federal government and the provincial government, the ability to have those programs assist individual municipalities, and what types of organizations were likely to be receiving those. It was an excellent base level foundation information to understand all of the twists and turns that happen between multiple levels of governments and multiple strategies all working together. I thought to myself that this might be a good delegation to request from the BCNPHA, and I would just, I don't think we need a motion on that, but I would just recommend that to council and administration, that some time within the workings of everything else we have to do, that we would request that delegation and be provided with that information. I know council reports are so I can bring back information to council. The report was much too in-depth and valuable for me to, well, just to chop it up into horrible pieces. Thank you very much.
Thank you for flagging that. I think that's a fantastic idea. The BC Nonprofit Housing Association has just an incredible amount of knowledge, and I think that would be a great request. So I see our corporate officer has noted that, and hopefully we will make that request. Are there any other items to speak to from council reports? Okay, seeing none, motion to receive from Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And no new business. On to question periods. This is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions of council on items discussed during the course of the regular council meeting. Not seeing any questions. Would somebody like to move adjournment? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.